sewing friends. Today's sewing tutorial is for this adorable foundational paper pieced pouch. Now the center panel is all done by foundational paper piecing. The pattern is in the description below. It is also linked here to my channel. So be sure to grab the pattern, get your adorable fabric, and let's go make this pouch together. Now, we have already done the paper piecing portion, and if you don't know how to do foundation paper piecing, I definitely have some classes and videos available for you to watch so you can learn step by step how to do the paper piecing portion. So you start by making your front panel, and we're trimming the edges right now down to the size indicated in the pattern. We want to make sure all of the edges and the seams are nice and even before we get started building our pouch. So just carefully use your straight edge ruler and your rotary cutter to trim off any dog ears that are hanging out. And at this point, you should have peeled the paper off of the back. You no longer need that. And I always give it a nice press with my iron when I'm all done, just to crisp everything up, make sure all the seams are laying nice and flat, and then we're going to be ready to get started. Okay, so to get started, take the two side pieces that you have cut. These can be any color or print, whatever you want to add to the sides of your foundational paper piecing. You're going to place them right sides together, and you can add both of them at the same time. You can pin or clip in place if you need to. I don't always do that if I don't need to, but if you're more comfortable doing that, you certainly can. Then we're going to go ahead and stitch them using a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. Just make sure when you're laying that down that your raw edges are matching, that your top and bottoms are all even. Everything is nice and straight before you sew this in place. Like I said, pins or clips if you feel that you need to. Either any way you do it. There's no rules, right? Whatever makes you most comfortable. Okay, once you're done stitching, you're going to take this over to your ironing board and press those seams flat to the darkest color fabric. And then if you have any overhang because something wasn't quite straight, just go ahead and trim that up. Again, using your straight edge and your rotary cutter, you want to have nice straight seams before we go and attach the bottom panel to this. Okay, now we're going to add the top and bottom. So once you make sure your seams are all nice and even, go ahead and place those bottom and top pieces on your front panel, right sides together. I've got a little bit of overhang here. Don't even worry about that. We'll trim that up when we're all done. Again, pin or clip if that's helpful to you, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can also hold it in place. We're doing a simple straight stitch here. Again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's throughout this project unless I let you know otherwise. And then just make sure everything is nice and straight as you're sewing along that raw edge there. Go ahead and stitch that bottom piece in place the same way. Again, still using that 1/4 inch seam allowance. You really want to make sure that that is even throughout the tote bag for the lining and the exterior because they need to match up when you're done. So just make sure you're always using a 1/4 inch seam allowance for all your seams. All right, once you're done stitching those into place, again, go to your ironing board, press the seams to the darkest fabric, and we're ready to trim this up and make sure all of our sides and everything are nice and even. So if you had a little bit of excess, sometimes I think I'm measuring exactly perfect, and then I didn't. And it happens all the time. It's really no big deal. You just trim it off. Okay, we are going to quilt the front of this panel. So we are going to add fusible fleece to the back side. Now, this front side of the fusible fleece is the bumpy side. That's where your fusible adhesive is. So put the bumpy side against the back of your front panel, and then you're going to fuse them together with your iron. You're going to do the same for the back piece so that your front and back are the same thickness. You can quilt both the front and back. You don't have to quilt either. It's all up to you. For the straight line quilting, I always start with a diagonal line wherever I want to put it. So it's totally up to you. You don't have to do straight line quilting. You can do whatever type of quilting you want to on. I like straight line quilting. It's fun, it's simple, and I think it's really easy to do. So I just use my ruler and I mark 2 diagonal lines with my marking pen, and then I'm going to use my sewing guide for the rest of the line. So that's why I'm only marking 2 lines. Those are my starting points. So for the first line, you're just going to sew along the line. Now you can increase your stitch length here. Sometimes I'll increase it up to about a 4 just because I like the more decorative look of a top stitch and I like it to be a wider stitch. This is completely personal preference. Also, you can use whatever thread color you want to be visible on the top side. I always leave the bobbin white. You don't see that anyway. So it's totally up to you what you want to do here. So now that I've done my first row, now I'm going to use the guide that I've already put on my sewing machine, and I use that guide to follow the line that I just sewed. And I'm going to continue sewing straight lines. They will be equal distance apart because of the guide that's on my sewing machine. Your sewing machine may have come with one of these. Mine did not. Mine is an aftermarket one I bought on Amazon. I will link that down below in the description for you. It simply attaches to my presser foot and I can adjust it to have my lines as far apart as I want them to be or as close together. It's totally up to you. So here we are just going to be quilting the entire front panel. So this is going to take a little bit of time. Turn on your favorite show, favorite audiobook, whatever it is, and just keep sewing. The biggest thing is use that guide to follow your lines. And if you don't have the guide, you can draw all the lines with your ruler and marking pen. It's totally up to you. You can use masking tape. I've done that before too. It works great. Whatever you need to use to make sure that your lines stay straight is the biggest thing here. And guys, when I say that, I don't mean perfectly straight. None of my lines are ever perfectly straight. And if you look close enough, you can see that. But once you're done and it's all finished, you can't tell anyway. So don't beat yourself up. They do not have to be perfect. Just quilt. And if you bobble a little bit, because we all do, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Okay, so we started in the center of this pouch. So we are just getting to the end of this side. We're going to flip it over. We're still sewing in the same direction, but we're sewing up the rest of that panel on the other side of the line since we started in the center. I always tend to start in the center, work my way out. Not saying that's how you have to do it. That's just what I do. You can do this any way that works best for you. Okay, now we're done with the line going that direction. Now we're going to go the other way. So remember, we drew that line. We drew 2 lines across the middle. We're sewing along that second line. Then we're going to go back to using our guide on both sides of that line. And we're going to do the entire front, so that this is going to make that like diamond or grid pattern or whatever pattern you decided you wanted to do on your pouch. All right, my friends, we are done with the quilting. Now, if you want to quilt the back the same way, go ahead and do that now. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I didn't quilt the back of mine. All right, we're using zipper by the yard. So we are going to put the zipper pull on, but I always use a lighter first to melt those nylon edges, because if they're frayed, it's a little bit harder to put the zipper pull on. So go ahead, open that zipper up, put your zipper pull, and this is only if you're doing zipper by the yard. If not, disregard this part. You put your zipper pull on the zipper jig, and then you flip the zipper over and insert the two open ends into the pull. You want to line them up just right. You can feel when you've lined them up, and then just simply slip it on. And I like to zip it all the way down to the other end and make sure it's, oh shoot. We're going to do this again. I just wanted to make sure you got it. Okay, so you're going to do that too. You're going to pull that zipper right off the other side. So we'll go ahead, put this on there again. It's actually super simple to do. Slide it carefully to the other end, open that zipper up, and just leave that as is. We're going to put the zipper tabs on now so that we don't do that anymore. So here are your zipper tabs. I have already pressed them and folded them up. You simply take the square, you fold it in half, and then you fold your raw edges in towards the middle. And we're going to line this up with the end of our zipper teeth, and we're going to go ahead and sew over that. Now I'm using a nylon zipper. You can sew right over the teeth. Metal zippers, no. I never use metal zippers, so I have no tips for you on those. I always use nylon because they're no problem to sew over. Okay, so now we've put one of the zipper stops on, but next, here's where we're going to mark our zipper, because you want to make sure you have your zipper placed properly. That is a big part in making sure your zipper goes on the right way. You can trim off the excess. Now, before we sew the other zipper tab on, you want to go to your panel and mark 1/2 inch in from each side. This is very important as far as your zipper placement goes. Otherwise, you're going to have too much bulk in your side seams. So mark 1/2 inch, lay your zipper out. Now you want your pull to be you want to pull from the left to the right. So lay that zipper tab on the one side that you finished, okay? So mine is on the right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mark the zipper teeth at that 1/2 inch mark where we marked on the other side of the panel here. So go ahead, just use your marker and just measure in the same distance. So it's a 1/2 inch shorter than your panel. So then go ahead, use your scissors and cut off the excess. I open my zipper up just so that pull doesn't get in my way. Make sure you cut it nice and straight. And then we're going to add the zipper tab here. So it's going to be a total of an inch shorter than your front panel right now with the tabs added. But your tabs are added. You're putting the zipper teeth right at that seam of the zipper tab there. So we're going to go ahead, hold that in place, and then simply bring it to your sewing machine and stitch all the way across and then trim off those excess of the tabs. Now this is going to make sure your zipper pull does not come off either the front or the back of that zipper. Also important to note to trim any excess threads that may have been left behind. You just don't want those to get caught up in your zipper at all. So just be careful, trim off the excess, trim off the threads, and we're going to go ahead and put the zipper on. Right, so we're going to take the top panel and the zipper with the zipper pull facing down. So this is, again, right sides are together. You're going to line up the ends of your zipper tabs with that 1/2 inch on each side, and then you're going to put the liner face down and match up your raw edge along the top. You've just made a zipper sandwich. Okay, that zipper is sandwiched in between your 2 layers, and we're going to simply clip that or pin if you want to, and then sew using a zipper foot along that top edge of your fabric. Now, when you get to wherever that zipper pull ended up on your zipper, make sure you're aware of that. I want you to stop sewing, leave your needle in the down position, lift up your presser foot, and move that zipper pull up and out of your way. Do not try to force your machine to sew past it. That will make your zipper not be straight. It'll create this bubble. So never try to force your way past it. So now we're going to just keep sewing. The zipper pull is completely out of our way. Back stitch at the beginning and the end. And now we've sewn the zipper into the first 2 pieces. So right now you've placed the zipper in between the front and the liner. Now we're going to do the back of the bag and the back side of the liner. So take the back first, place your sides, right sides together, open up that pull just a little bit, however much you want to. We're lining up along that top edge. Make sure the zipper tape is lined up with the top edge, and go ahead and flip that liner piece over, and we're going to sandwich this again just like we did before with the top edge of the zipper in between the 2 layers. Clip, I would recommend clipping or pinning here just to help keep everything straight for you while you're sewing. Again, it should be a 1/2 inch from each side. All right, we're still using our zipper foot here because it is a skinnier foot. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be aware of where that zipper pull is while we're sewing. When you get to the zipper pull, stop, keep the needle in the down position, lift your presser foot up, and just gently pull that zipper pull up and out of your way. Again, don't try to sew around it. I've thought before, now it'll be fine. I can sew my way around this thing. It never works. It never does. Just trust me. Take it from my mistakes that I've already made. Just move it out of your way. It's a lot easier and you'll get a much cleaner result when you're all done. Go ahead, continue stitching down, back stitch at the end as always. And essentially you just put in a zipper. All right, we're going to open this up. So now you want to make sure that you open up the liner and then the bag exterior. So you have the top and the front and the back, and on each, so your zipper is in the middle, and then on the back of each side you also have the front and back of your liner as well. So it should be open, as you can see here. Now we are going to top stitch. Sometimes I leave my zipper foot on for this because it's just a nice skinny foot, and I top stitch right along the top edge of each side, right along that zipper. If you want to, you can press that before you do your top stitching if it's a little bit bulky. That might help make sure your seams lay down nice and flat, but you're going to top stitch along both sides. It helps keep everything in place where it needs to go, and then nothing will ever get caught up inside your zipper. All right, that's all there is to the zipper part. Now we are in the home stretch. So we're going to take our corner cutter. This is a tool that my husband and I have developed, and I will link this in the description for you. What we are doing is we're marking out the size of the corner that we're going to cut out to make our boxy bottom. So I am using the same size corner. I think I'm cutting out 1.5 inches out of the front, and I'm cutting through both layers here of the bag front and the liner inside the pouch. And then we're going to do the same thing on the back side. You just want to make sure you're cutting the same size squares out and you're lining it up corner to corner. So you're cutting out a perfect square on all four sides, and then it is the exact same size. That's why I love this corner cutter, because I make sure it takes all the guesswork out and I don't accidentally mark the wrong size. You know, I've done that numerous times too. My bags bottoms are all wonky. So go ahead, cut out those corners. Now, once you're done cutting those corners, your zipper is going to be in the middle, and you're going to put your front and back panels of the exterior together and your two liner pieces. Right sides are going to go together just like this. So you want to, oh, don't forget, open up your zipper at least halfway. Don't forget that part, or when we go to flip it right side out, you're going to get stuck in the middle. So go ahead, flip those over, matching up your notches that you just cut out. And now you want to fold your fabric on the sides of the zipper towards the liner of your pouch, okay? So that excess will go back inside the pouch, not to the outside. So you can see here, I'm making sure to line the sides up, and I'm going to go ahead and clip that. I need to find my clips. They're around here somewhere. I keep moving my stuff around and then I don't know where anything is. All right, I got my clips. So we're going to clip the excess fabric on the sides of the zipper towards the liner. There's not really a lot there, but you just want to make sure it lays back flat and it's both going the same directions. I'm marking the bottom. I use my hand because I want to be able to fit my hand in this opening when we go to turn everything right side out. So the side of the liner is where you're going to leave an opening. You're going to clip or pin all the way around the edges of the pouch. Now, for this part, you just want to do the two sides and then essentially the bottoms of both panels. You're not going to do anything yet with those notches that you cut out. Just leave those. We're going to get to those after we sew these sides together. All right, we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to simply sew all the way around. I like to start at the bottom where I'm going to leave an opening. So I start here and I stitch to the corner, always back stitch at the beginning and the end. If I don't say that, you just always back stitch to lock your stitches. Turn it around to the other side, starting at where that corner begins. Stitch all the way down, still using that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance here. And make sure you're removing the clips before you get to them. Don't sew into your clips or pins. That could be, you know, it would break a needle for sure, which we've all done. It's okay. So continue to sew all the way around the outside of the pouch, ignoring those little notches that we cut out. Now this is the bottom of the panel front. We're sewing all the way across the bottom of this one. You don't want to leave an opening there, just in the liner portion, which we're going to get to as soon as we sew along this side edge. Okay, so we're almost done. Again, back stitch here. And then we're going to turn and we're going to stitch like an inch of this, the other part of the bottom, away from that corner. You want to have some stitching done there to give it stability and so you can sew those boxy corners shut. So now we've left an opening here at the bottom. Now we're going to sew up these corners. So what you do, you take the two corners and you just pull them apart, and we're matching the bottom and the side seams here. You can pin or clip that if you want to. Otherwise, just kind of press it flat with your hands. Put that under the machine and sew across that corner. This is what's going to create that boxy bottom. We do it on all four corners. So just pull it at the sides, line up the seams in the center, and go ahead and stitch across. We're going to repeat this on the two corners for the bottom of the pouch as well. Okay, so let's do the other end. And again, just make sure you're matching up those seams. They should just lay flat and even together. They just pop together really easily when you pull out those two corners. All right, now that we're done, we are going to turn this right side out. See how she looks. So put your hand in that opening that you left there on the liner. Now, this is why it's important to open that zipper part way. Now, if you're like me and you forget to open the zipper, you may have to use your finger to open that up while your hand is inside there. It's much harder to do, but you can do it. All right, so we're just pulling and twisting and turning, and we're getting the entire thing turned right side out. And I like to leave a bigger opening than I think I need because it's easier. Now push out those corners in all 4 corners to see that boxy bottom. This is also where you want to check all your seams to make sure everything is matching up. Everything got stitched properly. There's nothing caught up in a seam that shouldn't be. And then we're going to tuck in the raw edges of that liner. And then we're going to sew this closed using a very scant 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. This is the only place you don't use the 1/4 of an inch. So you can see I just sewed right along those edges to close that up. Now we're going to pop out these zipper corners here. And because we left a 1/2 of an inch on each side of the bag, you're going to have, it's not going to be so bulky and your zipper's not going to be caught up in that side seam, which I know a lot of people don't like how that looks when it's all said and done because it gets bulky, it doesn't lay flat. So this way your corner should pop out nicely and your zipper tab should lay across the top. So right now I'm matching up all of my seams with my hands. I'm matching up the corners, popping out the sides, and you guys, that's it. That's all there is to it. Just use your hands again, make sure everything lays in as it should, that there's no wrinkles or bubbles in there. But yeah, we're done. You just made a zipper pouch. You put in a zipper. Look at that. All that's left to do is look it over, make sure there's no excess threads hanging off anywhere. If there are, simply clip those. You don't want to pull or tug on those. Just clip them with your scissors and test the zipper, and it works great. You guys, we're done. I love it. Well, wasn't that fun? Wasn't the zipper easier than you thought? I promise you guys, these things, they're not hard, but they take some practice. So practice, everyone will get better. The first one is not gonna be perfect, but mine wasn't either. So you know what? If you didn't get it right the first time, that's okay. That's how we get better. We just learn and we keep growing and growing and growing, right? So thank you so much for tuning in and watching this tutorial. I would love to see the pouches that you make. So please send them to me on Instagram, send them via email, tag me. I would love to see what you made using our tutorial today.